everybody, I'm Terry, and today I'm going to be tackling the front brakes on my BMW Z3. I've been mentioning it for quite a while that I wanted to do the brakes on the Z3, so we're going to be tackling that, and I'm going to be putting this into 3 separate videos. This video is going to be for the front brakes, and then I'm going to have a separate video for the rear brakes, and then one for bleeding the brake system with doing a fluid flush. So make sure you check out the appropriate video that you are looking for to help you out. So let's go ahead and get started on the front brakes. Real quick, I just want to show you all the stuff that I picked up. Now, I got all the tools and stuff that I already owned, of course, but then I went ahead and got all the parts. And this time around, I'm going to be going with PowerStop brand brakes and rotors, like the pads and rotors. And I'm going with their Evolution coated, the Geomet 360 rotors. You definitely want to have coated rotors. They'll just last you longer. They're not going to overheat and get all messed up and mess up your pads as quickly as non-coated rotors. So went ahead and got some coated ones. Now there's a lot of different brands out there you can go with, and there's definitely ones that are much better than these. I just want it to be a little bit more financially stable and do this more budget friendly, but still stay within a good quality within that budget. So that's why I'm going with these. So, and these ones are supposed to be really good with not having any kind of squeaks, as well as not having any kind of brake dust. So that was the big thing for me, is these are going to be an upgrade from stock. So PowerStop does sell ones that are going to be basically just the same, like they're equivalent to the stock ones. And then there's these ones here, which is like stock, but a little bit more of an upgrade from stock. So that's what I wanted, because in the end of the day, I want to keep this as a comfortable daily driver. I'm not doing anything performance-wise as of right now to where I would need anything for performance. So we're going to just stick with a comfortable daily driver with that's going to be quiet and dust-free, because I do like keeping my car clean, and I'm tired of cleaning all this brake dust up. So we're going to go ahead and get that hopefully addressed. It's pretty much just the fronts that get really bad brake dust. The backs aren't so bad, but this will hopefully address that. And going with these solid rotors was also a choice that I made, because obviously there's a lot of people are going to want to go with the drilled and slotted style, which are really good. However, there's pros to cons to each type of rotor, whether you're going to go for like the solid rotor or the drilled or slotted or drilled and slotted. And drilled and slotted ones are real good at, they're going to be able to have more air passing through them to help keep the rotors cooler, which is definitely a perk. However, because of the drilled holes or the slots, if you have one or the other, or if you have both, it's going to cause your brake pads to wear out faster, and they're going to create more dust, just because of the fact that you're adding, you know, areas that the pads are going to be kind of scraping over. It's not going to be a smooth surface. So I don't want the dust. So that's why I didn't go with drilled and slotted style rotors. I want to make sure I have no dust. So, and I don't want my pads to be prematurely wore out as well. So you can decide what your uses are. And they even have, PowerStop even makes one, a kit for the Z3 that's a track kit. So if you are using your Z3 for track use and you want to stay still on a budget, PowerStop does have a track day brake kit. So if you want to go that route, you can. And then of course we got some brake shoes for the back, and springs and things for to reattach these. I got some new rotor screws. I got slide pins, because I don't know if my slide pins are in good shape or not, so I figure I'll just replace them, because they're probably the original ones from factory 20-some years ago. I doubt they've probably ever been changed out, so I'm just going to swap them out. And I got some the sensors too came with the rotors, so that was nice that they actually included that. I was going to buy them separate, but they came with this kit, so that was real nice. And I picked up some .4 brake fluid so I can hopefully get a flush done. Now, there's a chance I won't be able to, It'll all depend on whether or not the bleed screws are seized up or not on those calipers. So it's probably been a very, very long time since this car has last had a brake job done from any of the previous owners. So there's a good chance they might have seized up. I'm hoping they didn't. I did brakes on the Yukon a couple weeks ago, and 3 of the 4 bleed screws were seized, so I couldn't do a flush on that. So I don't want to buy new calipers right now, so we'll see what happens when we get to that point on whether or not I'm able to do an actual bleed. Hopefully I can. Otherwise, yeah, you're outside of busting them off and putting new bleed screws in, which can be a pain. It's sometimes easier just to replace the calipers, but those are very expensive. So I really don't want to go that route just yet. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just go ahead then and get the front wheels taken off so we can get the fronts done today, and then we'll move on to the back later. So let me go ahead and get set up, and we'll get this started. All right, and to take the wheel off, you're going to need a 17mm socket. Get it off my foot. Now, whenever you take your wheel off, it's always good to just inspect your wheels. Make sure you don't have any uneven wear or anything like that. And these look really good. All right, so the first thing we're going to have to do is get the caliper removed. There's going to be some fasteners and things on the back that we're going to have to break loose, as well as removing this clip right here. So let me go ahead and get my tools all together so we can get started on doing that. Do it in another inspection. I like to just check everything out while I have everything open, and it looks like my outer tie rod right here, this rubber don't look right. So yeah, I think I gotta do tie rods. This is completely shot for my tie rod right here. Look at that. I can completely open this right up. So tie rods definitely need to get done. All right, well, let's go ahead and then focus on brakes now that we did a little quick inspection and we caught that. First, I want to move this line and open up the cover for the bleed screw here. Just because this brake line kind of wraps in there. There you go. Kind of pull it out of there, and then I'm going to cover that back up. You untuck the wire for your sensor here. You're going to have these caps. You're going to want to pop these out. One there and one here. Now these have thread lock around them, so they're going to be a little bit to break loose. There you go. Break that one loose. I'm just going to use my breaker bar to break these loose, and then I'll screw them out, just like so. There's one. And there's two. And they're just gonna look like a barreled screw. They're not like your traditional slide pins that just kind of slide inside the bracket. These ones will screw in. So they're a little different than what you would see on like a lot of the modern cars. So go ahead and get these taken out. All right, so now we need to pop off the bracket clip right here, so that way we can get the main part of the caliper off. You gotta kind of snap this out. Be careful so you don't flick it at your face. There we go. And it's okay if you damage the clip because your brake kit will come with a replacement one. Those will come with the pads. So that's dirt or something in there. Okay, so now the front part of the caliper should come out. Sometimes it might need a little persuasion. Make sure you have like a bungee cord or something so you can kind of hang it. So now we gotta try to pry that loose. So let's use my pry bar and we'll start to pull it out. Slowly but surely it's coming off. This caliper's probably been on for ages. Okay. So just look. Right in there. It clips onto the brake pad itself. So now that I kind of have the caliper off, I might be able to get that clip let go. Kind of bounce that there for a second so we can kind of see. I need to get you to let go of this brake pad. There we go. So these pads have this metal clip that goes inside the piston. Now we can carefully pull that out. Grab a bungee strap. And I'm going to just attach it right to the strut. Now the caliper will be safely secured and there's no tension on that brake line. And then this is that sensor for the front brake. Now I believe this is only on the driver's side. So this is going to be helpful to a lot of you because a lot of the people who make videos for brakes, they always do the passenger side on the video and they do the driver's side off camera. So I wanted to do driver's side on camera just so I can show you the things that tend to be missing from everybody else's videos. So now we have that out. So now we can go ahead and take this other pad off. And this one was pretty well worn. There wasn't too much left on there. Probably why I was getting so much brake dust at that point. Now to get the bracket off, we're going to have two other fasteners that we're going to have to break loose. And those are generally on pretty snug. Now it's not going to be so bad on a car like this, whereas compared to like my Yukon, the brackets are torqued down to like 220 pound-feet, which is insane. It's not going to be like that. I think it's only like 80 or 90 foot-pounds on the Z3, so it'll be a little bit more manageable to break those loose. So let's go ahead and get those off. Actually, I do want to show you real quick. So the pads that were on here are Textar pads, which are very, very good pads. So when it comes to brake pads, like I'm going with the PowerStop ones just because I wanted to stay on a budget. But if you want high quality pads, Textar is actually probably your best ones when it comes to European cars. Akebono makes some good ones too, but those ones are better if you have like a Japanese car. Otherwise, or any import rather, the Akebonos are good for all imports. It's just the Textars are better than the Akebono when it comes to European vehicles. So these are like the top of the line brake pads on here. It's just, yeah, I'm going to go PowerStop, and at least this time around, and then next time, maybe I'll have more in my budget to where I can put Textars on here again. But I just want to let you guys know that Textar is like the best. So let's go ahead and get this bracket off. All right, so you're going to have this bolt here and this one right here, and I think these are 16 millimeters. I don't have a 16 millimeter socket for my impact. So I'll have to break these by hand. All right, so I found a 5/8 impact socket. That seems to fit. This way I could use my 1/2 inch breaker bar. Oh, she's tight. The breaker bar method didn't work. I couldn't get enough leverage within the wheel well, so I ended up switching over to using a regular wrench, so that way I could use the method of using my DeadBlow hammer to forcibly turn this down, which made this significantly easier. I was able to break that loose quite easy, as you can see here with the DeadBlow hammer. So that's the trick if you're struggling. After I managed to break them loose with the hammer method, I just screwed them out real quick by hand, as you can see, and I was able to then move forward with the removing of the caliper bracket. All right, so we're gonna need a 6 Allen or hex, so an H6, however you want to identify it, to get this screw out of here. I went ahead and I got some of my punches. I got like a whole kit of different like size punches. I found one that fits inside the rotor because you have the gaps in there in the rotor here. So I got one there. So I'm going to use this one to kind of push down this way, push down, while I then turn the screw. That actually worked easier than I expected it would. And then we'll just get that out the rest of the way. Alright, and I bought new ones of these, just in case. I didn't know if any of these would be so corroded or stripped or anything. So I bought new ones, so I'll just put the new ones in. But there, now we got that off. Now, we tuck the sensor in the back. See if the rotor will come off. Sometimes these get stuck. And yeah, it's stuck. Alright, so now we're going to have to kind of hammer it off. There we go. And now that's off. Now we can go ahead and get the hub part here kind of cleaned a little bit. And what we'll do is after we clean this, we'll put some anti-seize here. So that way the new rotor doesn't get stuck to it like that one did. Alright? You don't want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. Just make sure when you put your anti-seize on that you don't get anything where the threads are for your wheel bolts. You don't want any anti-seize going there, otherwise your bolts could loosen and your wheel could come off. That'd be a bad day. So just make sure you're not putting anything anywhere near there. So yeah, get yourself like a 3-pound DeadBlow hammer, and that will make this job very easy to work with. That's like the best size, is a 3-pound hammer, because you want something with some heft to it. If you're using like a regular around the house kind of hammer, it's not really going to be strong enough, and you're going to have to put a lot more effort into breaking stuff loose. Especially if you live up north or by the coastline where there's a lot of salt and things are more corroded. Alright, so let's clean this off. So what I do is I put like my oil drip pan underneath. This way, everything that drips down will go in the pan and not all over the ground and in my garage floor. Okay, so get a little brake clean. Alright, so I'm going to hit it with a wire brush to clean it, and then I'll spray it with some brake clean, and then we'll call it a day. We'll put a little anti-seize on it. Make sure you wear a face mask with a filter, because the brake dust is very bad for your lungs. There's a lot of different metals in it, and it'll make you very sick. So make sure you wear proper protection. Wear some eye protection as well. My brake cleaner is out of air compression. Trying to get the outer ring of the hub because I want to grease that too. Yeah, there's no air left in my can of brake clean, but it's still getting the job done, so I'll just finish it off and then I can switch to a different can. Alright, so we got plenty of that. Nothing got in where the threads go. Alright, so once you grab your rotors, now if you have the drilled and slotted style rotors, you're going to want to look at, there should be some kind of labeling on the rotor. It'll either say like an L or R for left or right side, or it might say driver passenger on it, because your slotted drilled rotors are going to be directional, and it's going to make, you want to make sure you put them on the right side. Now, when it comes to my solid ones here, these ones don't have like a left or a right. So these ones I can just put on, and you want to make sure you line up the correct holes. You want to make sure the one that the screw goes in goes to the right hole so you're not misaligning it. So let's go ahead and slip this on. I'm going to take the gloves off so I'm not transferring all that oil that is on there from the old brakes onto the new ones. I'll still have the oil from my hands that I'll have to wipe off, but at least it won't be as bad as all the grime that I just got off from the old one. Alright, and that's in. And then just for good measure that it's at least tight enough. It don't have to be crazy tight. Alright, that's good enough. Perfect. So now the rotor is on the hub and it looked pretty. Oh, so pretty. Yay! Alright, now we just got to give it a quick little wipe down. Now you want to make sure you're using something that's lint free, because it will transfer onto your rotors. I learned that the hard way using paper towels in the past. They always transfer lint all over the place. So I got a lint-free towel specifically for just cleaning the oils and stuff off of the rotors. I'm going to give it a quick wipe down. And it'll get rid of any kind of factory coating that might still be on here. This brake fluid is kind of useless at the moment. There's a good chance I might transfer some more on here while I'm putting the brake caliper back on, so I'll have to wipe it one more time, but this will at least kind of clean off that initial coating that's on there. Alright, so now we need to get the brake caliper prepped. Now, caliper brackets are going to be different depending on your vehicle. A lot of the ones you'll actually will see will have the slide pins built into the brake caliper. So you would have like a rubber boot here, and then you'd have a slide pin that you would have to grease to go into your bracket. So you would have to clean all that stuff out. Now on these you don't have that kind of a setup, so because our slide pins don't actually slide, they just kind of bolt in, so it's different. But so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to clean up the area right in here where the brake pads sit, because you want to make sure it's clean enough to where when the pads are sitting on there, the pads can slide back and forth. This way, as the pads gradually get worn, they can slide in. Otherwise, if they get stuck, then you're not going to be catching the pad, and you're going to get uneven wear because one pad's going to be doing all the work and the other one's stuck, or whatever could be happening. So you want to make sure these are nice and clean. So take a wire brush to that and clean this out really good. Nice and clean. I'm going to go get a hand brush to kind of get in between here because my drill won't fit in the groove right here. Okay, so I went ahead and I got this nice and clean. I would like to get the inside grooves a little bit better, but I can't really get in there, but I feel like this is pretty good. Hopefully, we'll know once I'm going to remount the bracket, and then we'll see how well the new pads kind of slide on there, and we should be all right. But what we'll need to do is we'll have to put a little bit of brake grease on here just to help the pads kind of slide around too. But it should be good. Now, a lot of times you'll have a special bracket that'll clip in right here. There wasn't any brackets on these when I took off the other pads, so maybe these style ones don't come with the bracket hardware that snaps in. I'll find out when I grab my other kit, but they were kind of just free-balling in there without bracket clamps. So normally you would put a little brake grease, and then you put your little hardware brackets, and you click them in. But these ones might not come with that. So let's go ahead and let me grab my pad kit, which is right here, and let's take a look to see what we got. So we got the replacement clip that we had to break off. So this was the old one. We got new ones. It comes with boots, which we don't need that right now. That's going to be on this part here. So we could replace them over there. So that we'll put aside. And we have the actual brake pads themselves. Let's pull these out and take a look here. Now you should have two different pads. You're going to have the inner and the outer pad. So you want to make sure you have one of each, so you're not doubling up on one on there. Otherwise, your other one's going to be wrong. So these ones have the clip in the back that go into the piston, and these ones don't. So make sure you have one of each. This makes it easy to tell them apart on these. Other vehicles won't have this. They'll both look just like this. The only difference is sometimes they'll have like a metal wear sensor on the side. And if yours has like that, this is just for general knowledge for other vehicles. It's not pertaining to the Z3, but other ones you'd have like a metal wear sensor here. You'd have one of those on each side, and it would go on the inside pad, and that metal would always be facing up. But in this case, we don't have to do that. So let's just put those in there. So we have one of each, and these would go together inside, and then they have like the gaps. So we can pinch that sensor back in there. Well, it'll clip in to this one right here. But you can see the difference between, so here's my old pad, and here's the new pad. So let me try to kind of just stand them up here a little bit. So you can see the difference in how thick this is compared to how thin this one got. Woo! All right. But yeah, so this would be sitting on the rotor like so, and then this pad goes on like so, and then this pad would go on like so. Just like that is how they would sit in there. So set these aside. So yeah, these don't come with any clips. So I'm just going to put the caliper bracket back on, and then we'll put a little bit of grease on here so we can slip the pads in and push the piston back in. And to push the piston back in, there's a tool for that. And just take one of the old pads to press again. I'll show you that when we get to that. But let's go ahead and mount this back on. All right, so let's go ahead and get the bracket back on. We got it cleaned up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some thread locker on the bolts, and these are going to get torqued to 81 pound-feet. So let's go ahead and get that back on. All right, so I'm going to just zip it on with my impact just to get it good and tight, and then I'll adjust it as needed with my torque wrench and stuff until I know I got it around the 81. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's start getting the caliper kind of prepped here. I've had the caliper kind of just hanging here. So what I need to do is I need to press this piston in. Now some people will open the bleed screw so all the dirty fluid inside the chamber here, inside this bore, will flow out. Some people will open up the brake booster. So you can do it however you want to do it. And then you just got to get your tool and put an old pad in there. You slip an old pad in here and you're going to press it down in there. So let me, I'll have to take it off the bungee so I can kind of hold it proper. Go ahead and take the bungee out. Just kind of rest it there. Put an old pad right in there like so. And then there's different style tools. I got one that's this style tool. And you're going to put it in there and screw this. There you go. And then you just stick it in between. And then you can screw, and it's going to press up against that pad. And then the ears right here. And it's going to slowly push that piston in, as long as the caliper isn't defective. If it's defective and that piston won't go in, then that'll be different. But let's hope that there's nothing wrong and my piston will go in. So far, so good. And you want to make sure like your piston boot isn't like torn or anything. You can rebuild the piston if you need to, or you can replace your caliper. Okay, I think I got that all the way in. Slip that out, slip out the old pad. All right, and then now that's in. Just for a moment, I need that to hold that for a second. Let it kind of swing over there. Okay, so what I want to do is I wanted to add that brake grease real quick to the bracket now. I didn't want to do it earlier because I didn't want to risk it smearing everywhere while I was fighting with other things. Just a little bit of grease where the pad is going to be making contact. But you don't want too much because you don't want it to actually get onto the rotor. And then you'll also put some on the ears as well before you slip it completely on. But we need to stick the brake pad that has the clips into the piston bore here. Just want to make sure I don't have it like upside down. I believe it goes this way. No, it'll go this way because the sensor needs to stick out towards the back. So it's going to go in like this, but it'll sit on this side, which means it'll sit like this in here. And then stick that into the piston like that. Get into the piston. The other pad will sit kind of like this in here. I'm going to just kind of preset it in there. Okay, so now let's get the bungee off. Now comes the tricky part, because I got to get the ears of these to slip in. Now, because I don't have the metal clips that go here, I don't need to put the grease on the actual pad ears because I put it physically there. Otherwise, you'd put that grease there, put the clips in, and then put a little grease on the ears of the pad. These aren't set up that way. And the caliper is back on there. Okay, so now we can go ahead and you can replace these boots if you want. I'm just going to replace the pins. All right, so here's the new pins that I'm going to be putting in. And they come with thread locker already pre-installed on these. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt these in. I believe these are supposed to be like 23 pound-feet. And then just put the little dust caps back on. And then these are done. I'm going to put a little grease on these to help slide them in. Just put a little grease on there. Otherwise, they're going to be a little hard to slide in to where they need to go. Just don't put it where the threads are. And I'm not putting a lot on here. Just enough so I can get it into that boot. All right, that one's in. All right, got them screwed in. Now let's just make sure they're torqued. An inconvenience. That one's good. That one's good. All right. Then you put your little dust caps back on those. Press them in and all right. And then you can clean off the rotors again if you need to, if you touched it anywhere. So let's give it a quick little spritz. All right. And you hear that drag? That's good. You want a little bit of drag. You don't want them to sit on here to where you can't even turn them. So that slight drag that's there is perfect. All right, so the next, we gotta make sure we put the retaining clip back in. So it helps if you kind of get one side kind of pre-started, kind of like so. Then you just kind of bend this one forward and then press it. Whoops, don't let go of it like that though. Usually it's not this difficult. Kind of hold it there and you can give it a little tap. And then pop it in. All right, there we go. So the only other thing I got to do is technically replace the sensor. So I had reattached the original sensor. Okay, so I had fully installed everything and I forgot to put the new sensor in. So what I'm going to do is attempt to pull the original one back out. I'm hoping I won't have to remove the caliper to get to the pad to get it off. I'm going to see if I can't pry it out. But just got to re-disconnect it from the brake pad and then just follow the wire around, disconnect it from this clip up here, and then there's a clip right here that slides out of, and then it plugs in to this cover right here. So let's see if I want to make sure I can pull it off the brake pad first before I start undoing it. So let's see if I can't get that out of there. Let's see how much fight it wants to give me. Since I've had it off pretty recently, I'm hoping it won't give me too much of a hassle getting it back off. I'm going to pull it out from the bleed screw just to give me a little bit more slack. Okay, looks like it's not going to fight me at all. Alright, probably because the metal piece on here had already kind of broken, so it detached nicely for me. So now I just got to follow the wire around and get it out of where it's clipped in right here. Okay. Oh no, I broke it. No, it was very brittle and it broke. Unfortunate. So I guess I'll have to get a little zip tie to kind of hold them together so they don't get into any moving parts. But yeah, very brittle plastic and it snapped. What's it gonna do? Alright, so then this comes around the back here, and then this part here will just slide out. Just like that. It's sticky. And then now that is all out from the strut. Alright, so now we gotta pull open this plastic cover here. Hopefully this doesn't break on me. Okay, there we go. So opened there, and now it's stuck someplace where it don't want to open on top now. There we go. Ugh. And then it's just like a little door. Okay. Trying to wedge it behind the strut so I can keep the door open. Kind of like that. Okay, there we go. So it's out of the way. So then you can pull this out, and it looks like it's already kind of fallen apart. Try and coax it out with my hook tool here. It's a good thing I'm putting a new one in, because yeah, this one's definitely kind of just falling apart. So you got the wiring right there. There's like a little bit of a tab I'm pushing in here. It should pull out. Ouch. Great, that broke too. Fragile plastic. Okay, so I shoved my pliers in there and kind of pulled, and I was able to yank it out. So here's the old sensor. That one's now fully disconnected. So yeah, this will still plug in, so I'm not worried. It's just everything on top that you would pinch and to kind of pull it out is what broke off. The sensor itself, the connectors and the wiring, everything are fine. It's just the parts to grip and pull it out is what broke off. So that's unfortunate, but it's okay. At least I am still able to connect a new one in there. Now I just got to kind of look inside to see which way this goes. So I plug it in the correct way. And it looks like it goes in just like this. And then I got to push it down in there. I'll use my pliers to kind of push it in. Because since the other part broke off, so I can't really push it down in there. But I think I got it in there. And then, yeah, I think it's in because I can't just pull it out. So I think it's in. Alright, so now I can go ahead and slip this back into its home. Just like so. And then this slips in right there. All nice and prettyful. And let me get my door folded back over here. I kind of bent it to get, there we go. And get this to click shut. Alright, that's secure. Alright, so then the sensor slides back right here. And then it would wrap around, and it would have a clip here that broke that I'm gonna zip tie this to keep it so that way the stuff, I'll just put a zip tie around the strut and hold it here. I want to make sure I have enough slack to plug everything in before I do that, but I'll worry about that in a minute. So let's bring this back around. Okay, so now I'll reopen the bleed little cap here, because that kind of sits in there to keep it from bouncing around, like so. And then this will just go and snap into the actual brake pad. Alright, I got it plugged in. So I actually had it backwards. That's why it wasn't sliding down in there. So I ended up flipping it around, and it went on very easily. So there's like a little bit of a, let me see on the old one. So like here's the old one. One side is smooth, the other side has like this ridge on it. When I had the ridge facing the back, it wouldn't go on. So I flipped it around so that ridge is facing towards me. And it slipped right into place quite easily. So I think that was the issue, is I was putting it on backwards. But yeah, it went right in there with very little effort once I flipped it around. So there. So now we have rotors replaced. We got the pads replaced. We got the new clip put in. And we have a new sensor put in. I'm going to grab a zip tie and I'm going to put it around here just to make sure these cables don't come loose and get tangled in anything when stuff's moving around. So I'll get that fastened in for safety, since I accidentally broke this clip right here. I didn't mean to break the clip, but you know, brittle plastic, it happens. But I'll go ahead and I'll zip tie it right here, and it'll be okay. No big deal. And that concludes how you do front brakes. And remember, this sensor is only going to be on the left hand side in the front. So you'll just have one there to change out. So now that one's changed. So we're good to go. And then I had put a little anti-seize on the rotor right here. This is so your wheel doesn't bind itself to the surface of the rotor and become hard to get off. So just put a little bit in between so that way it won't have issues. I had the wheel on earlier, so you can see the imprint of where the wheel rests on there, because I had it on earlier. We're done. We got it done. So woohoo! So this will conclude this video. All right, my friends, and that is how you go ahead and install the front brakes on a BMW Z3. I hope you found this video useful. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, as well as give it a thumbs up if you did. And I'll catch you on the next video, which is going to be tackling the rear brakes. See you then.